Welcome to Green Earth VN, where we protect the planet to protect our future. When nature is pushed to the edge, diseases push back. Deadly viruses that once lived deep inside forests are now finding a new host: humans. Are we prepared for the next pandemic? Title card. Diseases from wildlife: nature's warning to humanity. Nature has always been a vast, hidden reservoir of microscopic life, deep within lush forests, sprawling caves, and remote jungles. Countless species of bats, rodents, and primates live their lives, carrying within them thousands of viruses that remain completely unknown to science. For millennia, these viruses have coexisted with their animal hosts in a delicate, natural balance. The specialized immune systems of these creatures have evolved over eons to keep the pathogens in check, preventing them from causing widespread illness within their own populations, and, by extension, keeping them far from ours. This intricate system of checks and balances is one of nature's most effective, yet invisible, defense mechanisms. But when we disturb nature, that balance collapses. In our relentless pursuit of resources and expansion, humanity is pushed deeper and deeper into the world's last wild places. Massive deforestation for agriculture, the construction of roads that slice through pristine habitats, extensive mining operations that scar the earth, and the unstoppable sprawl of our cities have shattered the natural barriers that once kept these viruses contained. These activities don't just destroy ecosystems. They create highways for pathogens. This encroachment forces wildlife into smaller, more fragmented territories, increasing their stress levels and making them more susceptible to shedding viruses. At the same time, it brings them into dangerously close contact with humans and our livestock. Scientists call these moments of transmission spillover events, and their frequency is increasing at an alarming rate. When animals lose their homes, viruses find new ones. Our homes, our bodies, we have, in effect, invited these ancient diseases out of the darkness and into the light of our interconnected world, setting the stage for global health crises. The history of modern epidemics is a grim catalog of these spillover events, each one a tragic lesson we have seemingly failed to learn. Every pandemic was a warning. But did we really listen? Let's look back at the deadly outbreaks we ignored. The story of Ebola is a terrifying example. This virus, believed to originate in fruit bats, spilled over into other primates like gorillas and chimpanzees before making the jump to humans who came into contact with infected animals. The result was a series of devastating outbreaks across Africa, characterized by an incredibly high fatality rate and a wave of fear that paralyzed entire communities and nations. It was a stark reminder of how quickly a localized outbreak can become a regional crisis. Then there is HIV/AIDS, a global catastrophe that has defined public health for over 40 years. Scientific evidence overwhelmingly points to its origin in wild chimpanzees in Central Africa, likely transmitted to humans through hunting. From this single spillover event, the virus silently spread across the globe, evolving into a full-blown pandemic that has claimed tens of millions of lives and continues to affect communities worldwide. HIV/AIDS taught us that a virus can spread across continents before we even know it exists, becoming a permanent part of the human experience. More recently, the world was brought to its knees by SARS in 2002 and then, on a much larger scale, by COVID-19. Both of these coronaviruses are strongly linked to wildlife markets, where a wide array of live and dead animals are crowded together in unsanitary conditions, creating a perfect breeding ground for viruses to jump from one species to another, and ultimately, to humans. COVID-19 shut down the entire planet, causing millions of deaths, collapsing economies, and fundamentally changing the way we live. It was the ultimate demonstration of our vulnerability. And the threat is not over. Viruses like avian flu, specifically strains H5N1 and H7N9, circulate naturally in wild bird populations. They have already shown they can spill over into domestic poultry and, in rare but deadly cases, to humans. The terrifying possibility remains that one of these strains could mutate to spread efficiently between people, triggering a pandemic with a fatality rate far exceeding what we have seen before. Each of these diseases was a signal, a clear warning that our relationship with nature is dangerously broken. To prevent the next pandemic, we must understand the specific actions that are driving these diseases to our doorstep. At the forefront is deforestation. Every minute, we lose vast swaths of forest, the equivalent of dozens of football fields, primarily for farming, logging, and infrastructure. This destruction eliminates the natural buffer zones that keep wildlife and their pathogens separate from human populations. We are literally clearing a path for viruses. Closely linked to this is the illegal wildlife trade, a multi-billion-dollar global industry that treats living creatures as mere commodities. Animals are captured from the wild, transported across continents in horrific conditions, and sold in crowded, unregulated markets. These markets are hotspots for disease transmission, mixing species that would never meet in nature and creating a perfect storm for viral spillover. The journey from a forest in Southeast Asia or Africa to a market stall is a direct transmission route for pathogens. The expansion of agriculture also plays a critical role. As farms and livestock operations push deeper into forested areas, they create a new interface between domestic animals and wild animals. This proximity allows viruses from wildlife to infect livestock, where they can adapt, multiply, and then make the jump to the farm workers and communities nearby. Furthermore, climate change is a threat multiplier. As global temperatures rise, animal habitats are altered, forcing species to migrate to new regions in search of food and suitable climates. This mass migration brings different species, and the viruses they carry, into contact for the first time, creating new opportunities for pathogens to evolve and spread. Finally, all of these drivers are enabled by weak and poorly enforced wildlife protection laws. When there are no meaningful consequences for deforestation or trafficking, the economic incentives to exploit nature far outweigh the risks. We created the perfect path for viruses to travel straight to us. The cost of our broken relationship with nature is immense, and humanity pays the price in ways that go far beyond the immediate health crisis. Pandemics don't just attack our bodies. They break the world we built. The first and most devastating price is, of course, the staggering loss of human life. Millions of people, parents, children, friends, and colleagues have been lost to these diseases, leaving behind a trail of grief and broken families. The scale of this loss is difficult to comprehend, a permanent scar on our collective memory. Beyond the human toll, pandemics trigger global economic collapse. To control the spread of a virus, governments are forced to implement lockdowns and travel restrictions, which bring entire industries to a standstill. Supply chains are severed, businesses are shuttered, and millions of people lose their jobs and livelihoods. The economic shockwaves can last for years, pushing nations into recession and widening the gap between the rich and the poor. There is also the profound mental health crisis that follows in a pandemic's wake. The fear of illness, the pain of losing loved ones, the isolation of lockdowns, and the uncertainty about the future create a perfect storm for anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress. The psychological burden can be just as debilitating as the physical illness itself. Our healthcare systems, the very front line in this battle, are pushed to the breaking point and beyond. Hospitals become overwhelmed. Medical staff face burnout from working under unimaginable pressure, and resources like beds, ventilators, and protective equipment become dangerously scarce. This strain means that people with other serious medical conditions are often unable to get the care they need, leading to a secondary wave of preventable deaths. Ultimately, pandemics fracture our societies, eroding trust in institutions, fueling misinformation, and deepening social and political divides, leaving us weaker and more vulnerable than before. Faced with such a monumental threat, it is easy to feel powerless. But there is a solution, a comprehensive and forward-thinking approach known as One Health. The core principle of One Health is simple yet profound. The health of humans, animals, and the environment are inextricably linked. We cannot protect one without protecting the others. A healthy planet means healthy people. This approach calls for a united global effort to address the root causes of pandemics, not just their symptoms. The first and most critical action is to preserve our remaining forests and ecosystems. This means enforcing anti-deforestation laws, promoting sustainable agriculture, and reforesting degraded lands. By protecting natural habitats, we maintain the barriers that keep viruses safely in the wild. Next, we must end the illegal wildlife trade. This requires strengthening law enforcement, imposing severe penalties on traffickers, and launching public awareness campaigns to reduce the demand for wildlife products. Shutting down this trade is one of the most direct ways to cut off the main route for viral spillover. We also need to proactively monitor for viruses in the wild. By establishing global surveillance networks, scientists can sample wildlife populations to identify new and potentially dangerous pathogens before they have a chance to reach humans. This early warning system would give us a crucial head start in developing diagnostics, treatments, and vaccines. Improving hygiene and biosecurity in animal farming is also essential. By creating healthier conditions for livestock and preventing contact with wildlife, we can reduce the risk of farms becoming amplifiers for new diseases. Finally, we must educate communities, policymakers, and travelers about the links between environmental health and human health. When people understand the risks, they are more likely to support and participate in protective actions. The next pandemic may have already begun somewhere, silently moving from an animal to a human in a remote village or a bustling market. The spillover may have happened yesterday, or it could happen tomorrow. The crucial question is not if it will happen, but whether we will be ready to stop it before it engulfs the world once more. The warnings have been clear and catastrophic. We can no longer afford to ignore them. We have a choice: continue on our current path of environmental destruction and wait for the next inevitable crisis, or embrace the One Health approach and start healing our planet to heal ourselves. But we can stop it together. Protect wildlife, respect nature, save ourselves. Thank you for watching Green Earth VN. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to spread the message. Green Earth, clean future.